Welcome back to the Stan Simpson Show. The verdict is in on a horrifying child molestation scandal involving former Penn State assistant coach Jerry Sandusky. Again, here with attorneys Norris and Diaz. So 45 of 48 counts guilty on basically having sex with children. You were here earlier, Reese, when this story broke. Your thoughts then about this case and what's happening now?
It's a horrific case. I believe, and I think the public believes, that the jury did the right thing and the only thing, which was a verdict of guilty in this case. It's horrifying and shocking to the conscience.
It was really shocking, too. The one charge, the assistant coach McCreary, the one charge that kind of created this furor, where the assistant coach alleged to have saw the kid in the shower with the coach, he was acquitted on that charge. I found that to be the most fascinating part of this trial, of this verdict, is that the one account that made all the headlines, he was acquitted of.
I know, but I think it was much more powerful to have the actual victims testify as opposed to a witness to an alleged victimization.
Mr. Diaz, your thoughts on this, following from afar? What are your thoughts on a crime of this nature and what it means for Penn State and appealing?
Well, I can tell you one of my mock trial students is pretty heartbroken. She was a Penn State grad. But my concern more so is for the victims. I was a youth minister for several years, and without breaching any confidentiality, I can tell you that I've witnessed firsthand the effects that those type of conduct done on a young person can do to them long term. So my concern is more so for the children. I'm glad that justice was served, but on the same token, is it really served, considering that they still have to live with the trauma that they endured for the rest of their life?
He's still facing sentencing. That comes in a few weeks. Can the wife of this man not know that this is going on? Your thoughts? I mean, can that be happening over 15 years?
My gut tells me she knows. My gut tells me she knows. Whether you could charge her and prove it is another story. But I don't believe it's possible that she did not know and was not complicit in this.
How about him not testifying? Now, Reese, when you were here earlier, Sandusky was talking on the air with Bob Costas, and you thought his attorney did a horrible job, and that he had him on the air talking. And go over that again. You mentioned that you didn't think his representation was all that strong. No,
this Amendola, I think, has unfortunately done a horrible job from the beginning, and he poisoned the case by allowing his client to speak to Bob Costas. His client buried himself. That was a key piece of evidence put on by the prosecutors in the case. Any good lawyer knows you don't have your client do something like that. You dig a hole for yourself. And then even the defense at the trial, character testimony. I mean, give me a break. That's not going to undermine the credibility of these witnesses. And that testimony from the psychologist about his personality disorders or things of that nature, that's not a defense. It doesn't constitute a defense.
Right.
So I just thought it was a very poor job.
Was the Costas interview allowed in? I've lost track of that. Was that allowed in?
They allowed that in, a good portion of that in the trial. In fact, there were some questions later on about editing of that tape and what was shown, but definitely the tape was shown to the jury.
Now, Sandusky did not testify. Did he have to? Should he have to? Obviously, there was the smoking gun. Supposedly, they had the stepson who was willing to testify against him. But even with that, him not testifying, how compelling is that for a jury? Even though he's presumed innocent, if you don't testify, you want to hear from him in this, don't you?
Well, I think that the defendant has the right to not testify. That's a right that he has. He doesn't have to take the witness stand.
But every jury, and legally you're right, but we know every juror is a human being, right? You have 45 charges of child sex. You want to hear from the man himself. Tell me something that can, mitigate these allegations.
Well,
right?
Here's the problem. You can get up there and you can defend yourself, but how can you defend yourself against that many number of allegations and against that many people? To be honest with you, I think it was erring towards the side of caution, having him not testify, because he would have gotten. I can imagine what the cross-examination would have been like.
If there wasn't the specter of his stepson possibly testifying against him, would you have put him on that stand?
I never would have put him on the stand. Usually the approach I take in cases like this, where I have a client who's not testifying, I just tell the jury that they heard from the judge at the beginning of the case that the defendant's come before the court and he's spoken 2 words, not guilty. That's all he has to say.
When you talk to jurors after cases, how influential is that? Because again, jurors are human beings, and they may say yes by the letter of the law. I should not judge them anyway, but we all know folks do want to hear from the person.
I've been successful with the defendant not testifying numerous times, because I get jurors who are going to believe in the law, and the law says The state has to prove its case. The defendant doesn't have to prove he's innocent. And if the state has not proved its case by proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the verdict must be not guilty. That's it. Clear. No question at all.
You know, Isaiah mentioned the healing process and how it takes a long time to heal from this. There's also going to be the civil law process. We know there's a lot of money involved in this, right? And let's talk about exposure, Penn State, and the 3 Mile, whatever his
Second Mile
organization. How much money are we talking? When all said and done here, exposure and insurance, what are we talking about here as far as settling this case?
I think it's going to take Penn State and those insurance companies a lot of money to settle this case. So
half $250,000? I mean, $250 million, hundreds of millions? Are we talking tens of millions?
You could be talking hundreds of millions of dollars by the time it's all over, because the issue of aggravating factors of a cover-up.
Right.
Those emails that came out, I think that is just push the value of the case up. And Penn State has an individual liability, not just as the employer of Sandusky, but it may very well be complicit in allowing this to have continued.
Just and those acts happen there in their shower.
Absolutely. And I think this is a disgrace that's going to taint Penn State for decades.
Go ahead.
One thing with evaluation, I think we can use the St. Francis case as an example.
Good point.
Where at first the settlement figures are arbitrary, but all it takes is one attorney to bring one victim and get a jury verdict, and just think about what type of money that juries are going to be willing to pay because of the nature of the incident. If you get one jury to give one victim $5 million, and all of a sudden that's the benchmark for all.
Compounded, right?
So Penn State definitely doesn't want any of these to go to verdict, and I think it's in their best interest to get rid of them.
Settle. All right, very interesting. Again, Reese Norris, Isaiah Diaz from the Latino and Puerto Rican Affairs Commission. Guys, we'll have you back in. You are our legal consultants now to the show. You okay with that? And I should say the unpaid legal consultants.
That's right.
They're very clear with that, right?
This is our pro bono work.
I want to thank our guests. Folks, don't forget to catch our show 24/7. CTNow.com/Stan. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. For the good folks here at Fox Connecticut, I'm Stan Simpson. Tim Lammers in the Morning News is next.